you, DeRahn, because I know you're very athletic, and you're a trainer, and you salsa dance. So you seem pretty confident in that area, but has doubt played a role at all in your athleticism?
Well, doubt, it varies. I have doubt. I think everybody has doubt, but I always have doubt, but it's never, at this point, it's not paralyzing. It's not preventing me from doing anything. It's not affecting how I show up. So if I'm going to exercise, I might be performing more weight than I normally would that day, and I might have doubt about it, but it's not something that's going to stop me at this point. So, I still have it.
Right.
It's not going away, but now it's more momentary, and then it just moves on.
What ways has doubt prevented your own happiness? Maybe in relationships, in your career?
Relationships, big time. And not even just relationships, but just dating. And doubting, a lot of men will see a woman and pedestalize them, put them on as a pedestal, and say, oh man, she's so beautiful, and
that goes
I
both
can't
ways.
attract her.
Right.
Well, it does. It's just that men typically do more of the approaching. So for us, if it's paralyzing, then we never get to that. We never get to that point. You're
very attractive, though. You take very good care of yourself. I just can't see you being nervous to approach someone that you want to approach.
Well, it happens. It happens because I might replay something, a horrible rejection that happened years ago, and say, man, I don't want to go through this again.
Tell us about a horrible rejection.
Like Hitch.
I don't know if we have enough time for a horrible rejection.
I want to know.
Just, for example, just something that's just go up and say something simple like hi, and they just turn and walk away.
Really? You've had that happen to you?
That's what it feels like.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But where there's just no politeness and no recognition of what it takes to do that for a lot of people, and it's just criminal sometimes. Criminal rejection. But that's just one person who was in a state at one time, and we can't. That's the problem with doubt. Sometimes doubt is built on a lot of these smaller experiences, but we don't have the information about those previous experiences to really to analyze them and understand them, especially when they happen if we have in childhood, if we have these doubtful experiences, if something that happens that crushes our doubt, we don't have the vocabulary and we don't have the context to be able to make sense of them. So now when we get into adulthood, we try to look back at that experience, but it happened as a child, so we don't have this vocabulary, we don't have this meaning that we attach to it. We still, at 35 years old, we look at this thing that happened when we were 7, but we only have our 7-year-old context to examine it. So then we go back to child mode when that happens.
Right.
And that's why I think it takes this proactiveness to say, okay, I'm going to look back at this experience that happened when I was 7, but I have to analyze it as a 35-year-old and not experience it again as a 7-year-old because I'm experiencing it as a child. So it takes proactivity and context to be able to go back and say, all right, let me forget about the emotion that I had at 7 when I had this experience. Let me experience this as a 35-year-old, and okay, now I can move forward and approach it in a different way.
That's such a powerful point. And a lot of people they're not even aware that the doubt that they're experiencing today is related to their childhood.
I know all of mine is.
Right, yeah.
I just didn't have enough positive affirmations as a child, and I wasn't raised with confidence. I don't have kids, but if I did, that would be the biggest cornerstone of raising my child would be raise them with confidence, because if you don't raise a child with confidence, then they don't know that they can make a difference. They don't become leaders. They become followers, and they just become slaves of everybody else's agenda.
Oof.
So, and I know from 33 all the way back, I didn't have any positive affirmation. I didn't know I was doing anything good. She knew she was doing something good because she got first place, and she did, and she was beating everybody, even though she didn't feel like it. She still had these physical references that said, okay, I did something good, and I didn't have that until much later in my life. So you're right. It was this doubt. Adult doubt for me, was based on childhood experience. Absolutely.
But it's interesting when you're talking about, not to make this about dating, but doubt does really play out in dating, about being nervous to approach a woman because of the doubt that you've dealt with before, because as a woman, this is going to sound really, I don't mean to sound like this, but I've never had the experience of being interested in someone and them not being interested in me back. But I have experienced like being in a relationship with someone and then they cheat, and then all that self-doubt comes from that, like being very confident in like who you are and, you know, your ability to attract what it is that you want to attract, and then realizing that there's still like so much doubt that happens in relationships. But yeah, I can see men dealing with that on the other side with the approaching someone. What about you, Michelle? How has doubt prevented your own happiness, maybe in relationships or in your career?
Doubt is something that I battle on a consistent basis. It is something that I'm very aware of, literally on a daily basis. And the source is pretty much the same. And I do think maybe, I would agree, early childhood. There's this theory that when we're babies or children or adolescents, we see ourselves as invincible. We're not born with doubt. In our most helpless state, we are full of confidence. And it's interesting because when you mention self-doubt, I almost think it's something that's been internalized from our environment. So, you know, coming into this world, not feeling doubt, initially feeling very safe, thinking that, I mean, children don't even have spatial recognition. You put a baby on a box with a glass over it and another box right here, the baby's gonna crawl right over that open space. Right. They're not even scared. You know, how many kids jump in pools? They don't know how to swim. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is something that we learn and then internalize through experience, in my opinion. And so for me, I've always had kind of a strong personality, strong constitution. I'm aware of that. But I became doubtful, internalized it, like self-doubt, based off of how I'm interacting with my environment. Whether it's school, whether it's relationships or men or whatever the case may be. You were telling DeRahn how handsome he is. And he knows, right? And he can know that. Like, you know that. But if he walks into a room and he says hi to, 3 gorgeous women and they don't acknowledge him, I mean, he knew he was handsome before he walked in the room, but he might be like, okay. Right. We almost like short men here. Right. Like, maybe I'm not handsome to you. And I think that what happens is sometimes we don't take that step to say, maybe not to you. It's just maybe I'm not handsome. Maybe I'm not. I didn't think I'm not getting a good score. I didn't make a good jump. I thought I can't jump. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, my parents are strong and they raised me and encouraged me to be strong. But I've mentioned in the past, like when I've talked, like in a box. My parents were conformists. I have military background, high military background in my family. Everything is incredibly structured. It's regimented. And so you operate well, but you operate well in this box. I live every day very conscious of my need to get out of this box. Whether it's a dating relationship, whether it's profession, how I dress, I'm like, dude, get out the box. You know what I'm saying? And so, because it's limiting. And it has been. Yeah. It has been limiting. In relationships, I won't go into it, but I definitely have a relationship story where I was attracted to a guy and he was attracted to me, and I literally thought, like, I'm not going to cut it. I'm not going to cut it. It's not for me, and then missed out. Learned that lesson. Won't do that ever again. Right. Learn that lesson, girl. Learn that lesson, because I ended up seeing him we got with later, and I was like, wow, like, literally the person that he ended up dating, almost every marker that I thought was going to disqualify me was a trait that the new person had. Wow. And they're married now. Right. So, and that's okay. But yeah, I battle against this.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I do too. I I feel like for a lot of my career or work experience, I've always had success, like pretty much everywhere that I worked, but it just always felt like luck to me. I never realized that it was like my own talents or my own skills and abilities that were getting me there. And I would never, and still to this day, I wish that weren't the case, but get tired of people telling me, oh, you did really great, or oh, you're so smart, because I doubt that within myself. I even doubt doing stuff like this and my ability to like communicate. And so when people tell me that, it's like I thirst for it, like, oh, please tell me. And then, you know, when you get that one comment of feedback, which I also want to hear, like, you know, the negative feedback too, or the areas that I can improve upon. But I could have done something that'd be like so terrific, and like 2% of it was just, you know, things that needed to improve. And I will hyper focus on that 2%. Like that is literally all I will remember. How has insecurity been useful for you?
Can I take that one first?
Mm-hmm.
So, particularly in dating and professionally, I like a little insecurity. Because I think that when we see ourselves as qualified for something, sometimes we get a little too comfortable. In our dating relationships, I think I see a lot of people take one another for granted. You get the title before you're dating. Before the date, you put forth some effort. You become, you know, you decide you're official, right? And then, you know, you're still working towards something. You say, you know, you still got to be up and up. You got to be considerate. You got to be polite.
Right.
You know, you got to take care of yourself. And then you get together, you know, and then that's when, you know, the basketball shorts and the bonnets come out. Which I'm okay with. Like, it's all good. Be you. I'm just saying, like, and I'm oversimplifying when I say the basketball shorts and the bonnets.
No, I know.
Literally don't mean that.
Yeah.
But I do think you should have trust in your relationship. But for me, that little insecurity is like kind of that reminder for me, like, you still need to perform. Like you need to be active, be on your stuff. Professionally as well. Like I feel like for me, insecurity in some instances keeps me from being stagnant and taking my position, whatever it is, for granted.
That's good. What about you, DeRahn?
Yeah, for me, insecurity, it doesn't come out much in relationships now, but it comes out more in the professional world. For example, if I'm insecure about the job or the level I should be performing at, it actually helps me, because if I'm at this level, but I feel like I'm at this level, I'm going to raise myself up higher than I should. So if the expectation is here that I don't know it, and I think I need to perform here, then that's where I'm going to raise myself up. And based on what everybody else is doing, I'm going to be higher because I think that that's where everybody else is, and I think that's where I should be performing. So it makes me work harder. It makes me submit better work products and interact with people to compensate for my perceived insecurity and deficiency. Meanwhile, it's not there, so I just overperformed when I thought I was just performing at the standard.
What has been your journey to overcoming doubt?
You know, for me, the biggest thing is telling myself a different story, and realizing that just about all of my doubt has come from the stories that I told myself, and a large percentage of those stories are not true. So it's, first of all, recognizing that I'm telling myself a story, and then finding the reference points to show me that it's not true. So analyzing the story that I'm telling myself, and then poking holes in that story. It's just, I was an engineer for 13 years, so we have a theory, and then we test it out, then we figure out if that's the answer or not. So it's, all right, let me analyze what is the story I'm telling myself that's providing me the doubt, and then let me see if I could poke holes in the validity of that story. And if I can poke holes in it and tell myself that, hey, that story's not true, it's not accurate, then I can proceed with a different story. And that's the story. That's what I've been doing, is just poking holes in all the stories, the self-limiting stories that I'm telling myself, the stories from childhood, poking holes in them, invalidating them, and then moving forward with a more effective and more correct story.
That's powerful. I have a follow-up question for you. Because I always forget that you've been an engineer, because what you're doing now is so different than that. And then you've been a trainer or a dance instructor?
I don't think it's different than that.
Really?
It's engineering. So if I'm working with you, then it's figuring out how you work. And just like engineering, every situation has a different strategy to solve the problem or to make progress in the problem. So everybody is their own problem. She mentioned the box. Everybody's their box. And if I'm working with you or I'm working with myself, I have to figure out what's the best way to communicate with you? What are the strategies that would help you grow? And it's being present and diagnosing in the moment. So I think working with people is all engineering. But it's just not applying blanket strategies to everybody. Everybody's their own puzzle.
I love that. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
What about you, Michelle? Like, what tools have you utilized to overcome doubt, or what has been your journey to overcoming self-doubt?
I think probably the first one is my environment is huge. So like DeRahn mentioned, telling himself a different story, which I 100% agree with. But just the addendum is the environment that I'm in has to be conducive to that story. Like I can tell myself something, but like I said, if I think I'm attractive and then I walk into a room of 5 men and I'm always in that same room and those are the only 5 men I see, and every time I walk in the room those men turn away from me, it's gonna be hard for me to keep on telling myself that story.
That's such a good point.
My environment is huge, and you and I talk a lot about this concept that I think about, I own, of home. And it's funny because we're talking about early childhood experiences, adverse ones, and then, you know, as you get a little older, you get to a point where you have more independence and you can start to kind of have more control over your environment. You develop a new support system. My home now is not my parents' house, right? But having home, for me, my environment can reflect back to me who I am, who I say I am, right? So I'm saying I'm that I'm speaking that in my atmosphere, right? To the potential doubt atmosphere. And if there's doubt coming back, if there's something that's poking holes in my environment, then I need to change my environment. Not all of them, because we can't, but I have to have a home where the truth is.
Right. Oof, girl.
So that's my, you have a funny. So that's my, that's the first thing. I know.
Sorry.
And then the second thing that's been really big for me is this other concept that I've been really thinking about. I didn't, as a woman, I didn't know what trait I found most attractive in a man. And one day, I mean, I've had men ask me this question before, but someone asked me, a male, and I said, well, let me think about that and get back to you. And I really did think about it. And what I realized that one of my most attractive traits that I identify in men, not even men I'm going to date, just men, period, is this quality of self-possession. And not only am I attracted to that in men, when I realized that, I also realized that I'm a very self-possessed individual. Like, I recognize that I have shortcomings, and some of them I own, some of them I like. I mean, I might not want those to hurt people, but I accept me. And I do that comfortably because I understand that I'm not perfect. So I'm not always going to be the smartest one in the room. I'm not going to be attracted to every man. I may not be qualified upon interview for the job, but I believe that I can learn. So these stories, I get to know myself. So whether it's built on past experience, whether it's built on the fact that I can trust that I'm actively working on myself to be better, to be more knowledgeable, to be more comfortable. I know me. Like, I'm constantly trying to get to know me. Like I said, literally on a daily basis, get out the box. Like, who are you? Those are the two things. And I don't think that ever ends. I don't think I'll ever feel that I'm the best at anything. So I don't have to worry about that guaranteed failure or insecurity that I put on myself. I'm good enough. I'm just glad to be here.
Right, girl, right. Just glad to be here.
All right.
Yeah. There are so many powerful things that you just said. One is about, like, if you're struggling with doubt, you really need to have a community or like a home that reflects the truth of who you are. Like that consistent truth that you are bouncing back to. Yeah, and then we talked before, and what you said about a self-possessed man. I had never thought about that until you mentioned it to me. Now I realize that is my number one. Like, if I meet a man that's self-possessed, and they don't even have to like fit, the look that I'm looking for or anything, but just
no longer archetype,
right?
Just
like,
do
oh
you
my
own
god,
you.
right?
Yeah.
So the last question I have for both of you is just what advice would you give to someone watching this that may really be struggling to like believe in themselves? Like, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to get as much awareness as they can. Really take the flashlight and stop shining it on everybody else. Turn it within. Look at yourself. Understand yourself to the highest level. Understand the source of your doubts, the motivation of your doubts, and the direction where you want to go, and start analyzing the things that you're doing, and start becoming aware why you do things, why you don't do things, and also be aware of why you want to go where you want to go, and understand your motivations. And the more awareness you have, the more internal changes you can make, and the internal changes actually help change the environment, because the environment is a reflection of how you think.
That's good.
So awareness is the biggest thing.
What about you, Michelle?
I mean, I hate to sound so simple, but I just say tackle it. I mean, there's like some cliche saying that comes to mind, like, I don't know, if you don't try, you're 100% guaranteed to fail at something. I mean, I think definitely just going after whatever it is. I mean, you don't even need to feel qualified to try.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you got the invitation. The moment is here. You have nothing to lose by trying.
That was so good. Well, I just want to thank you both for being here and to stepping into this vulnerable space and speaking about your experiences. I think even if just one, or who knows, a lot of people see this and that have been struggling with doubt, which a lot of people are, and can hear you guys just sharing your stories. That's very impactful. So I appreciate you guys stepping into this space.
My pleasure.
So thank you everyone for watching this episode of Rise and Thrive. I hope to see you again, and do me a favor, please like, comment, subscribe, share this video, and I'll see you again next time.